Hello and welcome along to Clare FM's Sideline View. It's Derek Lynch with you for the next hour. Very, very busy show for you tonight. We look ahead to Clare's mammoth trip to Antrim in the National Hurling League. We'll also preview St Flannan's TUS Dr Harty Cup showdown with St Joseph's Nenagh. Clare's footballers are hoping to put their first points on the board in the National Football League, and the St Joseph's Spanish Point ladies footballers are looking to create more history in the Munster Senior A final. We'll also get details of this weekend's opening round games of the Ennis Carpets Clare Cup, and we look ahead to the Clare contenders heading to the National Coursing meeting in Clonmel. Now, we are of course beginning the show this evening on the hurling front, where there is one rather short trip and anything but on Sunday. The TUS Dr Harty Cup final and Clare versus Antrim in the National League. We'll have Tommy Guilfoyle on co-commentary for both those games. Tommy, we'll put off the big long journey for just a while, and we'll start with Saturday, which is a little bit closer to home, and what should be a cracking atmosphere, a cracking game, and from a fan's point of view, hopefully a cracking result.
It is, yeah, Derek, and I suppose the semi-finals were there to be won. Nenagh and Flannan's have come through. Flannan's, I suppose, that for long stages, the last day, for three quarters of the game, looked like, that they were in trouble. But in credit to them, the impact off the bench, got them over the line. And I think there was probably a realisation that they were going out of this Harty Cup. And they upped their work rate, upped their performance, and are into the final, and a home final, which is kind of unusual. But in some ways that can lessen the pressure, or it can add to the pressure. These teams have met already. There was nothing between them. It was a draw, but I'm sure both teams have moved on and changed since then. So yeah, Nenagh probably go into the game as favourites. On the back of that victory over Thurles, but I think Flannan's, will know deep inside that this is a great opportunity, particularly in Cusack Park.
And I think the fixture makers are very happy Flannan's won that coin toss, because I'm just after seeing in the last few minutes Tip's National Football League game has been moved out of Thurles to Moneygall. Simple Stadium is unplayable at the moment, and that Spanish Point ladies football game was meant to be in Nenagh, and that was moved to Bantir because Nenagh is unplayable. So hats off to David Hoey and all his crew, because the park is splendid.
Yeah, look at this time of the year now, you come to expect pitches wouldn't be at their best, but in the last couple of weeks, the amount of rainfall and traffic on, would say, inter-county venues, and that has been a lot for this time of the year between hurling and football. So to get a pitch, I think with the calibre of Cusack Park, I don't think Nenagh will mind that, because ultimately it's what happens between the white lines. But the pitch will be in good condition on Saturday. So from a Nenagh point of view, I suppose from a hurling point of view, we can expect a fairly good open game.
And a bit of recent form to go on. They drew in that first round, but reading some of the reports, I think Owen Dugan, who is an absolute superstar in the making, he went off, I think, in that game, and it coincided with St Flannan's comeback. So is it a case of seeing who has improved most since that first day?
It has, yeah. Look, I suppose, as you progress through any competition, you eventually find your best team, the players in their best positions, and, a few players out injured, they can come back. And yeah, look, at Duhan is one of these prospects that have been mentioned, at underage hurling for the last couple of years. I think, he's playing, with great experience, far beyond his age, I'd say. The pressure he was under to take that free the last day, is a measure of the man. But Saturday, Harty Cups are, can be dour, really, because what's at stake is great. Now, look, it's not the end of the world. I suppose, the loser has the second chance going on to the All-Ireland series, but I'm sure that's not in any of the mindset of both teams on Saturday.
And of course for Flannan's, it's a third final this decade already, so they would be very, very eager to make it 2 out of 3.
Yeah, look at they, we've spoke about this, through the campaign. Their history and their of winning Harty Cups, I think is they're right up there at the top roll of honour. It's something that any hurler going to Flannan's is usually measured by. Has he that Dean Ryan, or has he that Harty Cup medal? And these players now, as you said, some of them will have partaken in the last couple of years. So, the fact that it's 19 now, under 19, a lot of the Flannan's players, I'm not too sure about Nenagh, have a lot of experience at this level. And indeed, a lot of them have played adult hurling, club hurling. So, they'll be ready for this game on Saturday.
And we saw it in their quarter-final, and we saw it first-hand, I suppose, in that semi-final in a lot of ways as well. They do have a final quarter finishing kick. They have quite a strong bench to come in and make the difference. But does a question get asked maybe eventually as to how many times you can go to that well?
Yeah, look, that has been a trait throughout this championship, where they've, given teams leads. We spoke about it going into the semi-final the last day. They're the amount of wides that they build up. Someday that's going to catch up with them, and the further you go in any competition, the stakes get higher. So the room for mistakes and misses is greater. I'm sure Flannan, are aware of their poor start for most of the games. Now that's something that's probably mental rather than physical. So I'm sure that once the ball is thrown in, Brendan Bugler and his management team will want Flannan's in this game in the first quarter rather than waiting around for the last quarter.
And the messaging coming out of the camp is very consistent. Bugs even said it, I think, before any semi-final was played, that he felt the team that beat Nenagh would go on to win the Harty, and as it transpires, that's it, they're in the final. And even the players themselves are all kind of speaking like that. So that's the message I think they're hammering home, that this will take performance of the season to win.
Yeah, look, I suppose Flannan's will be playing down their chances, and no better man than Bugler and the Flannan's management team, and trying to heap the pressure onto Nenagh. But look, they've been around as well. They have a very experienced management team. Tip hurling is on a high. Their underage is really moving along. So I'm sure they won't come to Ennis on Saturday, fearing St. Flannan's, but at the same time, what's at stake. It'll be the team that performs to their best, makes the least mistakes, and more importantly, from a Flannan's point of view, take the chances that are going and put the scores on the board rather than tot up, wide stats. So I think they'll be well aware of it. I expect, Flannan's to really, target the first quarter of this game. Maybe take it, quarter by quarter after, because if you have a team and you have the likes of Doohan at centre forward, that's really unsung. You don't want to be chasing a lead because, as we said, it'll come back to bite you.
You mentioned their management team. Donnacha O'Donnell, obviously a very shrewd coach. We know plenty about him from his time here with the Mills, like bringing them to a county final. 2 years ago, they were here in Páirc Uí Chaoimh winning a Harty themselves with him on the sideline. So they have a lot of positives going for them as well.
They have, yeah. When you look at the clubs involved, with Nenagh, Kildangan, Kilruan, McDonough's, Burgess, Portroe, Borrisalee, the clubs, roll off your tongue there. They're all, high class, high clubs, particularly at underage. So, the quality will be there. There's no doubt about it. But likewise, Nenagh coming into Ennis, I'm not sure, does that take the pressure off or put it on Flannan's? I think they wouldn't want it any other way, I think, Flannan's. But Nenagh, the surroundings, the familiarity for the Clare players, will be a lot greater than it is for Nenagh. But as I said, if the pitch is in fine nick, which it always has been, it's what happens between the white lines. Now there'll be a great atmosphere. Harty Cups bring big crowds and all that. So, good game in prospect. But it's about performing on the day, and the team that does will probably be the winners. Yeah,
1 o'clock start in Páirc Uí Chaoimh, so really looking forward to that one. And then, Tommy, I'd say it'll be straight to the bed for an early start on Sunday morning, because this is a mammoth one. 5-hour round trip from Ennis each way, 1,000 kilometres if you want to add it up that way. 6 if you're coming from the west of the county, 6 hours and another few kilometres with it. So plenty of logistics involved. But it was interesting. I just kind of mentioned it to Brian Lohan at the end of the game last week, and he just said, look, being in Division 1B brings about these venues. It just is what it is. We have to go and get on with it. Brian is always fairly simple in his approach anyway. But moved from Dunloy up up to Cushendall, home of the great Sambo, whatever bit of a dynamic that will bring. But this one has many challenges about it, Clare versus Antrim.
It does, yeah. And again, I agree with Brian. Look, you have to play what's in front of you. I'm sure that they'll take, great consideration into, where they're going to stay, how far away they're going to stay, and that. But I suppose, it's not often that Clare have to do it, and I suppose, it just brings about, the real challenges that Antrim hurling has in relation to being, isolated up there in the glens of Antrim, and how far away from, what we would consider to be the main hurling counties. So, I don't think Antrim will be having any sympathy for Clare. I think Brian Lohan wouldn't expect anything more. I think they'll just have to get on with it. Now, Antrim would go into the game, probably smarting from, that defeat, and probably the manner of that defeat last week down in Wexford. Clare, on the other hand, I think, will go into the game and they'll want to build on what they did well, but at the same time, again, taking their chances. I think Brian, quoted the stats there. The conversion rate was fairly, minimum there. So they'll be looking for improvement. Again, he had Fitzgibbon Cup during the week, so it's going to have to, see how that plays out. Interestingly, Adam Hogan took no part for Mary I. Now, I'm not sure, is that injury or unavailability? So there's other players, Keith Smith, missed the UL game. So he'll have to wait and see. But Clare will have a strong panel going to Antrim. I think, they would have targeted last week's game against Dublin. This one, I think, there's 3 games on the trot, so you get 4 points on the board. Then you can look forward from game to game. Do I expect changes? I'm not too sure. Will there be too many changes? Obviously, he'll need to, introduce some of those players. And, Dermot Stritch played the other night for UL, was very impressive. And it'll be interesting to see, will he get a start? With the spine of the team, I think will remain the same. Cleary and Dermot Ryan holding down the centre of defence. I think around midfield is an area I think that we need to improve on. I thought Dublin, won a lot of the breaking ball out there last Sunday. Clare, will need to, to get parity at least there, because if you don't, your defence is on the back foot. So it'll depend who he'll play midfield. Ryan Taylor and Darragh Lohan. I think Darragh Lohan went off with a slight injury, so we'll just have to wait and see when the team is announced, probably sometime tonight.
Yeah, is it a game that the likes of Clonmel is just tailor-made for, that he will work all day in that middle third?
Yeah, I suppose the fact that he played wing back the last day, probably was robbing Peter to pay Paul, because, he has really, made that his place there. And again, whoever you play with him can do the hurling, and Carl Malone will do the donkey work and the hard work. So it'll be interesting to see, will they push him into that midfield and maybe, play someone at wing back, or maybe introduce someone in the back. I think Conor Lean was on the panel the last day, where when he'll come in, and that will be interesting. Personally, I would like to see someone like Conor Lean maybe played in that midfield role. His athleticism and his aggression and his physicality, we know he can hurl there. So, that's just something that my own personal view is, because, when you look down the line to that Munster Championship, a lot of games are won and lost in that middle third. So I think that from my own point of view, I think Clare need to, have a look at that and see and get the right mix there.
I think one of the last plays of the game is putting a lot of people thinking as well about what Rory Hayes might offer a bit further out the field, because it was a brilliant read to win the interception and dinked a gorgeous ball in front of Kelly, then didn't have to break stride. So, are you hampering him a small bit at cornerback?
Well, possibly, but I mean, then it kind of releases, we know what Conor Lean can do now. I know he has been, bedeviled by injury over the last year, so, fully fit and, and playing well. Connor Lean can fit in anywhere, and it just gives, Rory Hayes probably has been disappointed that he's not considered to be a first 15 starter. He's going to grab every opportunity he gets. I thought he played very well the last day. Defensively, he was a bit unfortunate with the penalty. I think it was 6-1 and half a dozen of another. But as you said, I think he has that hurling ability that, when I saw him coming out last week, I thought, and which he's capable of going for one of those downtown long-range points. But either Kelly called him or he decided, I better pass it. So, he has that ability.
From an Antrim point of view, obviously huge disappointment over their loss to Wexford, and I suppose the manner of it in a lot of ways. The loss of Gerard Walsh to a red card, that's another blow for them, and probably a second defeat would end any little outside chance they have of competing for promotion. So there's an awful lot on the line for them here as well.
It is, yeah, and I suppose look at they'll be targeting their home games. Clare coming to Antrim would always focus the mind of a Davy Fitzgerald team. I think probably ultimately that they will probably use the league to build the depth in the panel for the Joe McDonagh because they would feel that they belong in the in the Leinster Championship or whatever, but you have to earn that right. So yeah, look at Walsh will be a loss, but I think I saw somewhere there where Keelan Malloy I think is back in the panel. He hadn't played last year. They've lost a couple of players. A lot of the players probably I wouldn't be too familiar with, but I think when Davy picks them, and they're playing at home, they always play with great pride and passion. So I expect a tough game, but ultimately I think Clare will just have a little bit too much for them. Again, the weather conditions could be a great leveler up there. You're out on the coast. Beautiful scenery up there, and the pitch will be in good nick. It's right, you're looking over the harbour there in Cushendall, so look at a lot to play for, but 2 points will be well earned, and as you said, the logistics of getting up and down, you'd want to be coming home with those 2 points.
Yeah, well, once you're coming home at all, that'll be half the battle, so we'll see how all that works out. Could be a long road on Sunday. Tommy, thanks for that. We are back shortly here on Sideline View. Now, as our focus switches to football here on Sideline View, we're looking ahead to the clash of the Cusack Park home sides, perhaps, as TEG Cusack Park Westmeath come down to Zimmer Biomet Park Isog to Clare, and both in need of 2 vital National Football League points. Kieran Madigan with us to look ahead to the game. Kieran, I suppose with the game in Park Esther now very much in the rear view mirrors, what do you think Paul Madden and his management team will have what message will they have pushed home this week from it, do you think?
Yeah, I think they will have parked that result, as soon as the game was over. And I think we've heard as much from Paul Madden during the week. It was a game that I suppose not too many people gave us a chance of winning, even though the management and the players definitely went there with the belief they were going to win the game. And having witnessed the game, we're all very disappointed that they didn't take something from it. But it's important to park that result now and move on to this one, because you're up against the second favourites for promotion this weekend, and this is going to be a very, very tough battle, and it's an important game for Westmeath as well, because they just got out of jail against Sligo, losing the game in injury time and kicked 2 late points to win it. So they'll be delighted with that, but they know that this is a game that up against one of their promotion contenders in Clare, and we've had a history with them in recent years that there's been nothing between the two teams. They unjustly beat us by a point there 2 years ago, and we beat them in championship a couple of years before that as well. So look, they'll be coming looking for the victory, but they will also be wary of the challenge, having seen our performance up in Park Esler. And I think we'll come into the game with confidence. I think we played very well, and there was a lot of positives to take from the game. To see us kicking 4 2-pointers with 4 different players was huge, and not something probably that we have been used to over the years. And getting the majority of our scores from play, bar one free that we scored. So there's a lot of positives to take into it. But we have to go all out for the victory this weekend, because it's a vital game in the promotion race.
Defensively, I find it a strange game to kind of analyse insofar as Clare conceded 219, 217 of that came from play, which you wouldn't be overly happy with. But then you look at it from just 2 points from frees. Now, I know the Pat Haverin one dropped short for the goal, but it seemed to be structured in the sense that we gave up very, very few scoreable frees, but then you're kind of trying to trade that off against conceding the 217 from play.
Yeah, you are, and I suppose there was maybe two kind of spells that punished us really. You know, they had that spell just after, you know, when they got that goal, as you spoke about there, when the free dropped short, and that was a very unfortunate goal. But I think they kicked like 1-6 in the next 10 minutes, and you know, that really punished us. But look, I suppose what we can take from it is that we showed great heart and got going again, because you know, down through the years we may have folded and lost that game quite heavily. But there's plenty to work on. You know, when they'll have watched the video back during the week now, you know, they'll have noticed how, especially in the first half, how Down were able to cut us open through the centre. You know, when they broke our midfield line, they seemed to have acres of space down the centre. We did sit defensively deep, but it's just Calum Doherty seemed to get the freedom there of Park Essler, 30-40 yards of space to run into, and that's something that I'm sure that we will look at and look to tighten up on this week, because as you said, like 219 is too much to be conceding as well. But you know, you have to take the positives from it. We did. It's a strange thing to say. We did look defensively quite sound, even though we conceded that much as well. But you have to take into the fact that the goal was very, very lucky from their point of view, the first one, and also there was a 5-point swing in injury time, which, you know, it probably just doesn't give a fair reflection of the overall game.
Yeah, and even the second goal on the breakaway came from our own kind of handling error, turnover, that, you know, they didn't create it. In a lot of ways we were just out of position because there was so many lads committed to the attack at that point. But you could feel the relief, like we were up the back of the stand doing the commentary, you could feel the relief when Murdoch finished it. And in fairness to him now, it was a great finish, kept it low across Stephen, didn't give him much chance on a greasy surface. But there was a sense from the home crowd that they had got out of jail on this one.
Yeah, definitely. You know, talking to people up there, even at half time, you know, they were still with 5 points down. They were still confident that they were going to be able to turn it around. But they were definitely worried going into the last 5 or 6 minutes, because we looked like the team that had all the momentum, and we were playing very, very well, and we were creating chances. But I always think that the big teams like this, and we've seen it, you know, in Munster finals with Kerry and that down through the years, any mistake or handling error like that is punished, and you know, they punish you with goals, and they're killers. You know, you might get away with it when you're playing teams. I suppose, you know, the most of the teams in Division 3 wouldn't punish you like that, but down or back, kind of, they're getting towards the top table of Gaelic football again, and they have the players that will punish you. And Odin Murdoch is one of the best in the country. But that finish, like we all know the height Stephen Ryan is, and he went full length, and he you know, was inches away from his fingertips. He was right in the corner. It was a fantastic finish, and I suppose you can't take that away from him. But the opportunity came, as you said, from a handling error from ourselves, a poor turnover, I suppose we'll say. But we gave away a few scores like that. But look, nothing's going to be perfect the first day out. There's always going to be stuff to work on, and if we can iron out some of those things, you know, maybe be a little bit better this week, and as the league goes on, you'd be hoping that all these things will start ironing themselves out. You'll never get a perfect performance, but there's certainly areas for improvement, and I'm sure we've been looking at that all week, I would have said.
And then you wonder what mindset Westmeath will be in coming down. They got out of jail in their game. It was almost a kind of a mirror image of the Clare's situation. Like, will Westmeath have been happy with the performance? The fact it went down the wire, you know, they would have been expected to beat Sligo with a bit to spare at home. Will they be concerned about performance? Will they be relieved with points in the bag, or is it a mix and match?
I think they'll be very disappointed with the performance. Obviously, they'll be relieved to have the 2 points on the board, and I suppose after any game, that's the most important thing. You know, you can worry about the performance after, but they'll definitely be very, very disappointed that they weren't able to put Sligo away. You know, they were well up at half time. I think it was 2-9 to 7 points at half time, but they were very similar conditions to what we had up in Newry. You know, it was a real storm blowing, and look, Sligo owned the ball in the second half, and they took over on the kick out. They absolutely bossed the midfield sector in the second half, and that gave them the platform to kick on. And they didn't actually level until a couple of minutes ago, but they took the lead in the last minute. And again, like our own performance, up in Newry, you would have thought that they were going to kick on and win it. But I suppose you have to give credit to Westmeath. They didn't throw in the towel, and it was actually two of their subs. A player we would know plenty about, Sam McCartan, down through the years. He brought them level, and another sub, Shane Corcoran, kicked the winner. I think it was the last kick of the game. So I think the whistle went straight after that. So yeah, they definitely got out of jail. But look, they'll be relieved. But they'll also know that their next two games are their biggest two games in the league, because they've got us this week, and they'll be talking about us as promotional rivals. But if this result doesn't go their way this week, they've got to go up to Park Esler the week after. And if they were to lose to us, and hopefully they do, they'll be in a tough position going up to Newry the week after.
I think that's the hope from a Clare perspective, that Down go on now to beat everyone and get their 14 points, 12 at worst, and then, like you say, every other team then be dropping points here, there and everywhere to bring it right down the home stretch.
Yeah, you think so. I mean, look, they have been rated as the standout team in it, and they are very impressive, and they've got some very, very good players. But every other team in this division is capable of beating each other. And you would expect Down to rack up points early on, but they are going to have some tough battles, especially away from home. They have a tough battle coming up this weekend, going away to Limerick, but you'll be thinking that up in their home patch, you can't see anyone really beating them up there. And as you rightly say, it would be great if they were to actually, at this stage now, win all their games, and it would give us a mini league with everyone else in to see who can top that.
What did you make of our kick out the last day?
I was very impressed with it. I thought, it's when teams are pressing, obviously there's a bit of a lottery involved in it, but we were far more organised under our kick out than any game I saw last year, and that is a great achievement for our first day out. But it was obvious we had done an awful lot of work in it. We had a couple of we had Darragh Bohannon and Brian Mack together around there. We had Killian Brennan operating around there, and the likes of Dermot Coughlin and Fionn Kelleher then coming under breaks as well. Look at overall, we won 29 out of 51 kickouts, 57%. We were nowhere near those stats last year. So look, if you can be ahead on the stats, if you can be over 50%, you've done very, very well. And obviously we didn't have Stephen Ryan for most of last year as well. We didn't have Darragh Bohannon, so it's obviously not just a reflection on the management last year. We didn't have all the players available as well, but there's definitely a big improvement this year. And you'll be hoping, going by the reports, that Sligo were able to take control of the midfield sector against Westmeath last week. You'll be hoping we'll be able to get some joy there, because if we can, we have the forwards that can really, really cause some trouble.
In the modern game now, is it a case that it's nearly easier to get higher stats attacking the opposition kick out than it is retaining your own, that teams are really swarming on them?
It is, yeah. And the funny thing is, I noticed it last week, the teams with the wind struggled to get their kickouts away, because when the opposition are coming in basically against the wind, they're able to, it just seems far easier to attack the ball from that side. Because when you're attacking a kick out, an opposition kick out, you're trying to break the ball forward. Where you're facing the ball from your own goalkeeper, you're either trying to catch it clean or knock it back to someone back towards your own goals. So it's definitely easier on the opposition kick out. But I thought, for a goalkeeper the calibre of Ronan Burns, and he's one of the best in the country, and it's been said that he gets his kickouts away from under 5 seconds from the ball going dead. We stood him up so many times that he didn't know what to do. He was kind of waiting for a run, and I'd say if you actually had a shot clock on him, he was an awful lot slower this week than he had been in probably any previous game. And it just shows the work rate that was there from our forwards. And there was no such thing as letting him have a short one away. We pressed everything, and that was very, very impressive to see.
Yeah, well, hopefully we see a similar trend, but maybe with a different outcome on the final scoreboard this weekend. Kieran, thanks very much indeed for that. We do have commentary of that game to come on Sunday afternoon here on Clare FM, but we will have updates coming across the opening stages of that, because at that point we'll be in the closing stages of Clare versus Antrim in the hurling. So Sil and Joe will be in Páirc Kissoga, and we will cross over to them in the opening quarter or thereabouts, just to set the scene for us. And then we'll have full commentary once the hurling has concluded as well. So a bit of jigging about to be done, but we will keep you up to date across as much of it as we can here on Sunday afternoon. And hopefully by the time all that comes around on Sunday, We'll be celebrating footballing success for the county as St Joseph's Spanish Point contest the Munster Senior A ladies final on Saturday afternoon. First time since 1997 that they have done that. They go to Banteer in County Cork to face Loreto Clonmel as they bid to make it a third consecutive Munster title, having won the Senior C and Senior B crowns over the last 2 years. Ahead of that, I've been speaking to St Joseph's principal and team manager Paul Reedy about the achievement it is to have made that kind of progress.
Unbelievable, I suppose, the stuff of dreams for us. I remember when I came in here 20 years ago and you were looking at all the ladies Senior A winning All Ireland teams on the wall. You kind of said, God, will we ever see anything like that again? And I know we're still a bit away from that, but I suppose the progress over the last 3 years has been phenomenal. Culminating, I suppose, for us now on Saturday week in Mallow. So something to really treasure and look forward to, I suppose, for the girls.
But when you look at this through the prism of previewing a Munster Senior C final only just 3 years ago, and here we are now as Senior A, that is some consistency.
Yeah, I suppose it's been phenomenal. And when I think back to 3 years ago, Emer, Considine and Shauna joined the staff here in the school, and I suppose that has been one of the catalysts to all this success. I sat down with them when they were starting. I said, look, I really feel that we have the talent here to be doing, I suppose, far better than we are. And I think one of the first targets we set was to try and win a Clare Senior A colleges title, which we hadn't won maybe in 6 or 7 years at that time, despite having huge talent in the school. And we said, Ash, we'll have a cut off the Munster C as well, not thinking in our wildest dreams that we would go and win it. And then when we went the following year, when we went up to B, our target was maybe to win a game, and be competitive. And in fact, we were more than competitive winning it out. So, and I suppose it's all been small steps. This year was, to go into A, be competitive, try and compete as best we can. And in our wildest dreams, we didn't think we'd, I suppose, get this far, but huge progress made.
And how much of that journey, like I remember being up in, was it Swinford for an All-Ireland semi-final, and to have all that in the bank for the girls making the step up this year, like that was just so important.
Yeah, I suppose, look at, to speak negatively for a minute, I suppose we would have huge regret over that game in Swinford and the semi-final last year up in Ballinasloe. Like, there were 2 games that we didn't perform maybe to the levels that we should have, and still games we could have won despite that. And we really feel we've an All-Ireland maybe left behind us there. And I suppose the determination within the group has, grown and grown over the time. There's hugely competitive people and individuals. We have kind of a motto before we go out on the pitch most days, like, we play to win. We don't play to take part. We're not here to take part. We're here to win. And I think when you look at Abby Kelly or you look at Simone or Aveen Ryan, any of the players really in the team, Ellie Henry, they play to win. They're really... It's not about taking part for them. They're very single-minded in that. So a very special group of players that have grown together over 3 years. We've had some changes, obviously, leaving Sir Sleeve and new people come in, but it has been a real momentum led by some brilliant teachers here in the school. Shauna Harvey, Emer and Fiona is with us this year. The work and effort they put in is beyond anything that I would say is happening in the majority of other schools.
And you mentioned there about identifying talent. You look now through a Clare, whether it's a minor or an intermediate panel, you're seeing players with direct links, if not still here in Spanish Point. So the talent pool has been massive.
Yeah, well, I think you only have to look at the likes of Tyrone and Kerry and Kilkenny. The school complements the county. Schools sport in those counties. It's no coincidence that St. Kieran's and St. Brendan's and Killarney are winning all around them, and then it feeds into your Kerry Minors and Kilkenny. So I think that has really happened in Clare over the last few years. Killashta, Kildysert, Flannans are putting in a huge effort, and all those in conjunction with clubs obviously and the county is resulting in seeing a minor All-Ireland last year coming back to Clare. So look, I'd have to praise the clubs as well. We cultivate and support the talent when it comes in here, but the work that's going on in the clubs is huge, and they bring the talent in here and then we work with them. So we're very privileged to have such strong LGFA clubs around us.
Seems like an apt question given that we're in school, but how much homework has been done on the opponents?
I suppose, look, I went to see him play. I've seen him play in the semi-final. Look, they're a really good team, but So when you're in Munster A final, it's like saying, are the two teams that are in the Harty Cup final good teams? Of course they are. So look, a really good team. It's a really big challenge for us. But as I keep saying to our girls, we are a really good team and a really strong team. And as much trouble as we'll have with them, they'll have with us when it'll come down to it. And I think it'll be a great game. We actually play very similar. You know, we like to run the ball, both teams. So a big challenge awaits, but something that we are really, really looking forward to. Everyone, management, players, we'd love if it was on tomorrow and we could go down and play tomorrow. And there's a huge determination within the group to have a real go at this. We know in a small school like this, we've 200 girls, we have 3 13-year-olds playing. You know, we're maximising our resources, that this opportunity isn't going to come around too often, if ever again. So we're going to have a real go at it.
Best of luck to all involved with Spanish Point tomorrow. We will bring you regular extended live updates here on Clare FM, with that game having a 1:30 start in Bantier. Much more to come here on Clare FM's Sideline View. Do stay tuned. Now it's time to turn our attentions to what is quite a busy local soccer fixture list across this bank holiday weekend. Munster Junior Cup, Ennis Carpets Clare Cup, and all besides as well league fixtures right down along. So Jim Madden with us to have a look ahead to it. Jim, again, as ever, this comes with a health and a weather warning as to how things will play out over the next while. And if people keep an eye on the CDSL website and Facebook, they'll get all the updates there. But quite a busy and a significant Saturday. 2 big games down for decision. Take us through them.
Yes, indeed, Derek. And I mean, the big game on Sunday or on Saturday evening, at 2 p.m. is the Munster Junior Cup, Bridge United versus Pike Rovers. Now, this is a very interesting game. Bridge are in good shape at the moment and they're playing quite well, while Pike are not maybe the force they were of other years. They're third in the Limerick League. But they have plenty of experience, and of course there's a great chance for people to see 2 former Clare League players, Stephen McGann and Leon Daly. However, I do feel that the Bridge have got their form back to normal, what they should. They had a very good run last year in the Munster Junior. They were beaten by Coachford, who eventually won, and I think that they played that game above in Lees Road, which may have been a little bit of a mistake trying to go and play on the AstroTurf. So I'd be fairly confident that the Bridge can get a result, but I think it'll be a right good game because Pike Rovers would have their sights set. They probably won't win the Limerick League because Fairview are a good bit ahead, but they like to get trophies at that club as well. So it will be a competitive game. I hope there's a right good crowd, and I hope it's a nice bright afternoon for the game, and hopefully the Bridge will progress.
A unique enough fixture, we were speaking about it off here there, Jim. A unique enough fixture for round 1 of the Ennis Carpets Clare Cup. It's the Newmarket Derby, Newmarket A versus Newmarket B. It's on at McDonagh Park, and it's on the official fixture list for 11 o'clock on a Saturday morning.
Yes, indeed, that's where it is, and I haven't heard anything different about that, as the fella said. This is really a very intriguing game, for want of a better word, because both of the teams are at the top end of their respective league tables. Newmarket A in the Premier, and of course Newmarket B are running away with the First Division League. That game is bound to attract a big crowd. There'll be the A team supporters and the B team supporters, and there's no doubt both sides will be very keen to show their superiority. Now, the A team should have enough to win. They have a lot of experience, and they're a very fit side as well at the moment. But the B team will not give in without one hell of a fight. But I think the A team should have enough to win it. They'll be incredibly disappointed if they don't. But I think that this is a very good Newmarket B team. Physically, they're quite strong. Maybe a little bit, some of them a little bit on the older side, but they will give it their all on Saturday, and I think that this will be a great game. Hopefully there'll be a right good crowd there as well, but I think the A team will win in the end. And
of course it is a repeat of a cup final from a couple of years ago as well, so maybe a little bit of added intrigue left over from that one. We'll turn to Sunday, Jim, where again we're talking about Newmarket Celtic here, and maybe this is tying into the Saturday morning fixture when they play in the Munster Youths Cup quarter final. They go to Corbally for a 2 o'clock kickoff.
They do indeed, and Corbally, of course, who a little bit controversially at times seem to get bunched in with Clare when it comes to grants being applied, and that because they play their games at a fine pitch there, very near Corbally very near Partine, which of course is well within the Clare boundary. However, Corbally have a fine facility there. They have a big catchment area. They would have a very strong underage team, and I think that they will probably, with home advantage, have a little bit too much for Newmarket in that. But that should be a very interesting game on Sunday.
Absolutely. Then the main focus across the afternoon, very, very busy fixture list. And again, weather probably dictating how many of these will actually go ahead. But we have 4 games in round 1. I think it's 4 games in round 2 as well, and a game in the Premier Division. But we'll start with those round 1 games in the Ennis Carpets Clare Cup. Jim, run us through them.
Yes, in the first round on Sunday, Callan play Mount Shannon B. Callan are a club, of course, that you're a very strong supporter of, and I think they'll win that. Mount Shannon B are finding the going a bit tough. Ennis Dons then play Shannon Hibs B. The Premier side really need to win this because Hibs B are not doing too well and wouldn't be strong enough either. So a chance for Ennis Dons to get a bit of confidence in by winning that game. Fernand Celtic then play Fair Green. This should be a very competitive game. Fernand are doing quite well, and while Fair Green struggling a little bit in the Premier, but have had a couple of wins recently. But I think Fernand, with home advantage out there in Tirmaclan, could win that. Shannon Olympic then are playing Hermitage B. Well, Olympic under Jimmy Houlihan have improved a good bit over the last number of weeks, and I think they should be far too strong for the Hermitage B team. Now, I don't know where that game will be played because we had a lot of rain here in Shannon, and I think their pitch at Olympics pitch will be a little bit on the soft side. Then in the second round of the Cup, Derek, we have Hermitage versus Mount Shannon. The second division leaders, Hermitage, are a very good side, and I think they might just have a bit too much for Mount Shannon, and home advantage will help them as well. Bridge Celtic then, they're at home to Newmarket C. The Bridge should be able to win this because Newmarket C are finding the going a bit tough there in that. Shannon Town then, the A team, are playing Avenue C. Now, it should be a bit of a canter for Shannon Town. Their Premier side with doing reasonably well at the moment, while they're in mid-table. Avenue C wouldn't be anything like as strong. So a home win there for Shannon Town. Moher Celtic then play Shannon Hibs. Now, this is a big game and will be very competitive between two of the top sides in the first division. They're in second and third position, if I remember rightly. Hibs won at 3-2 recently in the league. They came from 2-0 down to win by 3. But I think home advantage and probably a little bit of determination from Moher, because they will see that they probably let the points slip the last day. I think home advantage should shade it for Moher, and I think that they could win that. And then, Derek, in the Premier League on Sunday as well, we have one game, Tulla United at home to Lifford. Now, Tulla lost last Sunday to Avenue by 1-0. Avenue scored a bit late at that. Tulla will be very keen to bounce back. And I think that while Lifford are struggling and have lost a few players of late in the transfer window, I think Tulla will win this. Michael be able to get a chance to use all his squad, I would think, as well. So a home win there for Tulla, and I think they'll get themselves back in track at the top end of the league table. In the second division, then, Derek, we have Corofin Harps at home to Avenue B. There's little to choose between these two sides. They're quite close together on the league table. And I think Corofin, with home advantage, might just shade it there and win that. While Sporting and Ennis-Diamond are at home to Cool. This is a bit of a local derby in a sense. Ennis-Diamond and Cool and Gort aren't too far apart. Cool are playing quite well at the moment. Sporting maybe not as consistent as them, so we'll give the nod there to Cool. And then in the third division, there's one game, Derek. Tulla B at home to Shannon Town C. Well, you'd have to imagine, if you know your alphabet, a B is stronger than a C, so I think a home win there for Tulla B.
Fantastic, yeah, loads of games. And just on that Shannon Olympic Hermitage B game in the Cup, I just see here on the website, I think it's down for Frank Healy Park, so both will be coming to neutral ground for that one.
Yes, and Frank Healy Park will be quite soft as well, even though it will be better than the pitch here in Shannon. But it gives both teams a bit of a chance to play a bit of football, all right, because it will be drier. And if we keep getting a bit of dry weather like we have at the minute today on Friday, I think it'll help the pitch big time.
Hopefully that applies to all of them across indeed. Busy weekend, Jim. Thanks for looking ahead to it.
Thanks, Derek. I look forward to it, and hopefully next week we'll be better talking, more enthusiastic about the weather.
I have to say I love the optimism on that one, Jim. Hopefully you're right. Thanks very much indeed for that. Finally on the show this evening, we are looking ahead to what is the biggest weekend of the year in coursing as the national meeting takes place in Clonmel. Plenty Clare interest in this one, and who better to bring us all the details than Alan Troy.
Good evening and welcome to this week's Greyhound Focus. The centenary running of the national coursing meeting takes centre stage this Saturday, Sunday and Monday at the famed Powerstown Park in Clonmel. The atmosphere at this 3-day festival will be electric, as which is the equivalent of Cheltenham for the Greyhound world. From a Clare point of view, we have a strong representation this year, and the excitement in many homes and parishes around the county is brewing, with the honour of having a qualifier at this historic occasion. In the Horse and Jockey Irish Oaks, the Banner County is represented as follows. Windfarm Strand carries the flag for Kilrush native Michael Eustace and his daughter Claire, who resides in Tubber. A very impressive winner of the Oaks Trial Stake at Climber Kilrush. She is a daughter of Fox Hollow Adios and Central Success, and she is in the professional care of Liscannor-based trainer Declan McDonough, and is priced at 16-1. And Declan also trains Cree Noel for West Clare County Councillor Dinny Gould. A daughter of Annual Fergie and Barrick Noel, she collected her golden ticket at the Traderie coursing meeting, and she is currently quoted at 33-1. Ines Noelheher is represented by Distraction, who prevailed at Borrisoleigh during the Christmas period. Jointly owned by Rachel Wheeler from Golden, she is a daughter of Bilesport Magic and Smitten, and she is quoted at 33-1. And there's great excitement brewing for the butcher from Gort, Jerry O'Donoghue, and his wife Marie, as Honky Tonk Angel takes her place in the Classic, having qualified at the Limerick City meeting. Jerry is a native of Tubber, and this daughter of Bilesport Magic and Tremora Floss was bred in Quilty by Packy and David Hogan, and she's priced at 25-1. Australian native Paul Horrick, who resides in Lahinch, is represented by Puzzling Word and Falcon's Mace, who are priced at 16-1 and 12-1 respectively. And now to the Bilesports Derby. The opening meeting of this year's season at Liscannor proved fruitful for Liam and Noreen Liddy from Clare when Mr. Tiger took the honours in the Derby Trial Stake. A son of Blades of Fire and Bowden's Wonder, he is priced at 25-1, and Liam and Noreen also qualified Frank, who won at the County Carlow meeting and hence has been sold on. The aforementioned Noelheher has wartime in the Bilesports Derby. Having impressed at the Ennis Clarecastle meeting by winning the National Working Member Stake qualifier, he duly obliged in the Derby Trial Stake at the Knockgraffin meeting. A son of Bilesport Magic and Smitten, he is priced at 25-1. And also mentioned previously, Jerry and Marie O'Donoghue from Gort have the whole shebang, who takes his place in the Derby. He qualified at the Galbally meeting and is a son of Kyle Raymond and Kilty Jesse. Both the O'Donoghue runners are trained by Maurice McCarthy from Kilbacantee near Gort. Ennis Diamond native Gordon Vaughan, who resides in Galway, jointly owns the Lochray qualifier Kill As Puglone. He's a son of Fox Hollow Adios and Cosna Keisha, and is hitting the bookies board at 33-1. And Ethan Maloney from Tulla is a member of the Whelan's on Sunday Syndicate, who own Ted Tastic, who qualified at the East Donegal meeting. A son of Upper Hand and She's Invincible, he's fancied at 20-1. Australian native Paul Horrick, who resides part of the year in Lahinch, is very well represented in this year's Derby, being involved with 6 qualifiers. Mr. Trendsetter, Lima Station, Awaiting Trial, and the well-fancied 9 Darter carry his hopes, and Paul Dinn jointly owns Data Bank and Union Station with his partner Catherine Darcy. Taking their place in the reserves list are Derra Chaser and Paradise Monaco. Owned by 6 Mile Bridges Rachel Murray, Derra Chaser, a son of Glenhouse Wonder and Elan Swift, won their reserve derby at the Ennis Clarecastle meeting. And the Sean Mead from Milltown Malbay owned Paradise Monaco prevailed at Killimer Kilrush. He's a homebred son of Upper Hand and Paradise Swift. In the Hotel Manila Grace and Matt Bruton All-Age Bitch Stake, Aaron View represents Liscannor's Donald Malone. A daughter of Watchman and Meek and Mild, she is trained by renowned Aberdeen-based trainer Dan Brazel. She is priced at 10-1 for outright honours. And Reserve A in this stake is She's Our Sky for Shannon's Jerry Cooney, who's the secretary of the Traderie Coursing Club. A daughter of Kyle Mozart and Walk the Line, she's trained in Skibbereen by Dennis O'Driscoll. That's all for this week, folks, and wishing everyone a safe journeys up and down from Clonmel. Slán agus Bannacht.
Alan, thanks for that, and best of luck to all the Clare crew heading down there. Hopefully we can tell you about a few winners over the next couple of days. That's where we do have to leave it though on this week's show. A very busy one coming up over the next while, but we will keep you posted on all of it, including those 3 live commentaries across the next couple of days, and of course updates as well from the Spanish Point ladies footballers and indeed the Clare ladies footballers who play Louth in the second round of their Division 3 campaign. That game fixed for 1 o'clock on the Clarecastle Astro on Sunday afternoon, so best of luck to everybody involved in that. The West Wind is up next here on Clare FM. Do enjoy the rest of your Friday evening.